All right, I want to definitely give a shout out to Michael Coker again, blackcollege9s.com, for joining us in that last segment. Good conversation. I appreciate you guys for checking it out. Make sure to check out that website again. Let's kind of get through some more news and notes, AD, as we get ready to bring it home here on the show. One of the big stories that's come out recently, as colleges and college programs are starting to bring players back to campus, we're finding that certain players or certain numbers of players are testing positive for COVID-19. And the numbers aren't big. What do we have? We have programs. I think we have programs at Alabama, Auburn, Boise State, Florida State, Marshall, Oklahoma State, South Carolina. All of these big-time programs have players, maybe small numbers. And we're talking, if you're bringing back 40, 50 guys and you have, 5, 3, 4, any small number matters, given how this spreads. But, one school, Houston, they've taken the extraordinary measure of halting all practices after 6 players tested positive for COVID-19. I believe that was on Friday. Is that right, AD?
Yes, that came out on Friday, Brian.
Yeah, so it's one of the things I mentioned this, and I felt like every school that's bringing kids back, there's a certain level or assumed level of risk that's going on with all of this. And I think, to what level you are, and I say you, your school, your administration, what's your level of comfort with these numbers?
Say it like it is, Brian. When does the attorney for the school tell you to cut it off?
Yeah, now we start talking about legal situations. And remember, I think I brought that up about players signing some sort of release form before they came back for voluntary workouts. I think we had mentioned that was something that was floating around, where schools were asking players to basically sign release forms, which essentially would sort of give the school sort of an out, right?
Yeah, it basically is identification waiver.
Yeah, now I don't know if that was in place in Houston. I would think if Houston is shutting down voluntary workouts with 6 guys, you got a feeling, wait a minute, something maybe was, some I's weren't dotted and T's were crossed, or nobody thought about that particular scenario. How is nobody thinking about this might happen? You know what I'm saying?
Maybe state legislation says that they cannot. This university has to accept that liability right now. It may be something that's simple. The local laws say that you could be held liable. So until laws are changed on the local level or state level, I hate to say it, you see what 4-5 is doing with his rally. You got to sign a COVID waiver before you're allowed to attend his rally. Really?
I did not know that. Really?
Yeah, the one that he moved from Juneteenth to June 20th, because he finally woke up and realized he was having a rally in Tulsa on Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Enough said. I don't want to get into it. You don't want to get kicked off the internet.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's real short-sighted for anybody to now be worried and be shutting things down. This should have already been thought about. And so when we talk about HBCUs and why maybe HBCUs are moving slow, this could very well be one of those situations that, are HBCUs willing to accept the risk? Are they allowed to even create these kind of waivers? These are kind of stories that give me pause. I was so optimistic maybe 4 or 5 days ago, AD, about college football returning. But it's situations like that which give me pause, because I feel like, and I'll move off of this after this, what Houston is doing reminds me a lot of what the NBA did when Rudy Gobert contracted COVID. They shut everything down. I mean, it was like, instead of removing him or maybe even continuing playing, they just shut everything down. And I believe it freaked everybody out, and so everybody else shut everything down. Maybe that was for the good. You know, some people would disagree with that thought, but the one big thing that happened caused this mass effect. Will what Houston did on Friday, what kind of reverberations will that have towards these voluntary summer workouts and so on? Next headline, AD. We've heard a lot of power. A lot of things have been happening in college athletics with players and young men, African Americans, really sort of taking ownership and understanding their value to their college programs. I mean, we've seen incidents that have happened at Clemson, Iowa, Florida State, where even recently at the University of Texas, where guys who recognize their power are not letting things go. Things that may have been accepted in the past, they're not being allowed anymore. And there seems to be an awakenness, or I don't want to call it a wokeness, but guys realize that what's important, and there was a push. Say again?
Empowerment.
Thank you. That's the word. Keyword.
He's smart enough to realize how much power they have in the form of their protests, in the form of their vote, in the form of what they could do on social media, and things like that. They have power, Brian, you and I did not have when we were in school. Stuff happened, you had to suck it up and deal with it when we were in school. These kids don't feel like they have to do that. Part of that is the microwave society. Part of that is the, for lack of a better word, how this group has been pampered. This particular generation has been pampered and has been raised by the, if I scream loud enough, I'll go get what I want. They've been spoiled. But in this case, that attitude has turned out to be a good thing. Whereas sometimes the attitude has not been a good thing. From the when coaches yelled at you, cussed at you, did everything in the world to you. Back when we were athletes, you didn't get water breaks. Now you got scheduled water breaks. You can only say certain things to them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and these are good things. Now, don't get me wrong; these are good things. But maybe that pampering has kind of led to this movement, because they're used to being privileged. These kids are used to being privileged and getting their way, and they're going to stand up and demand what they want until they get their way, or they're going to refuse their services.
I also think social media has helped that as well. The ability to express your thoughts to any and everybody, and because we already follow these athletes, or media follows these guys, you're able to put your message out. Remember, so what we're talking about is, as of this recording.
Can I say something on that? On that
Sure.
social media thing before you go to that?
Yeah.
The one difference between now and when we were in school, you're able to quickly find like-minded people to rally together to help you make your point. Whereas back in the day, you couldn't figure out who was on your side and who had similar ideas as you did. Now I'll get back to what you were saying.
That's a perfect, well said point there. So as of us recording this, a tweet by John Rothstein, who is he is actually a CBS Sports college basketball reporter. He recently, as of about maybe a few hours from our recording time, and this is on a Sunday that we're recording this, the NCAA has officially announced that no athletic activities will take place on Election Day, November 3rd, per release. So that was one of the things we saw coming out of this, is that you saw a lot of programs, a lot of football programs want to have a moment where their players or team could go vote. We saw, I think it was the University of Missouri, where their players apparently all marched or walked to go register to vote together. I think they went down to the state Capitol House or went somewhere to go vote or to go register to vote together. Now, and then we started seeing and hearing through, I believe, Florida State, through a situation that occurred between their head coach and some players. That was one of the things that the players came up and said, we want to be able to go and vote, because I guess they felt like during the course of that day that there was no time between their academic and athletic schedule. There's no time for them to go vote on Tuesday. And for whatever reason, I don't know, in the past, maybe people would mail in ballots, but who knows? The president seems to be wanting to move away from anybody mailing in a ballot. So I guess if you got to go vote in person, that might be the best way this year. Let's just say that you may have to go vote in person this year. So
I would say, and when I was at Tuskegee when I was coaching at Tuskegee during the elections, it was not uncommon for those who did not vote on campus. First of all, campus had its own polling place for the residents who stayed on campus. But for those who did not vote on campus, it was not uncommon to see a bus or two on campus throughout the day to take students to the various polling places throughout the city. And I'm not just talking student athletes, I'm talking students in general. And as the coach, we encouraged our athletes to make sure they got on that bus. And I know for a fact there were separate buses that went to the football field house to make sure that the football players were picked up, because if you're running for anything in a local election or whatever, the football team is the largest single group of athletes on anybody's campus.
Mm-hmm.
So there were buses specifically for the football team. And those buses waited there and made their rounds until everybody had the opportunity to vote. Whether they took advantage of that opportunity is a different story, but the opportunity was there.
Now, I sincerely hope that the simple encouragement to vote is all that comes out of this. The pessimistic side of me says that, well, what if you have a teammate who chooses and want to vote? I'm just going to say it. You may have a teammate that wants to vote for Donald Trump. Will he feel encouraged and comfortable enough to want to go vote for Trump while everybody else in the locker room is talking about voting for the Democratic candidate? Is this all about voting and exercising our right to vote? Or does this become politicized by promoting Democrat versus Republican? I hope this stays pure and just the desire to vote and doesn't become something else. But the pessimist in me tells me, AD, I got a feeling it's going to become something else.
Well, I will say this, and I hope this is the thing. The university itself cannot endorse a particular candidate or a particular party as a not-for-profit or 501c, which most universities are.
But
So
what if a majority of the football players do? What are you going to do?
You can do individual. Whether you talk shop or not in the locker room, it's fine. But the coaches, as employees of the university, should not be endorsing a particular candidate or not.
Okay.
If you allow a Republican forum, you also have to allow equal time to the Democratic forum, but you cannot endorse and say, hey, go vote for candidate A or go vote for candidate B. Now,
but
it's going to.
I know how this is going to play out. This is going to play out, AD, where whether you allow a form of Republican or Democratic, when the pretty little girl from the Democratic Party comes in with 40 extra large T-shirts and gives them to the defensive line guys, the linebackers, the running backs, the receivers, the quarterback, and they all say, "Hey, vote Biden." What message are you sending? Who are you representing then? Are you representing yourself, or are you representing the football program in the university, AD? What's that going to look like in November? I'm just saying, look.
I can't answer that question. I have been a part of it. And full disclosure, I lived in Macon County, Alabama for 16 years. Macon County, Alabama, for the last 5 presidential elections, had the highest percentage of Democratic votes in the nation, Brian.
Okay.
In the nation for their candidate. They had the highest number of Democratic percentage-wise per capita than any other county in the nation, Brian. One thing that we led in that people are actually proud of, because there are a lot of statistics that make it kind of leads in that they're not proud of. But and the reason I bring that up is, Brian, to be honest with you, I never had to face that because it was a Democratic county. It was almost a 97%. I want to say it was 96.3% Democratic county. What are the numbers in that particular county? So peer pressure, the 1 or 2, and I knew a few Republicans. Don't get me wrong, I did know a few Republicans, but they knew and they didn't say anything. You never saw for the most part, you never saw a Republican campaign person there. Mm-hmm. You know, matter of fact, there were a lot of times that Republicans for local elections, there were no Republicans running. You wanted a Democratic seat, you wanted a Democratic primary, you wanted a seat. You may get an independent every now and then. No one, very rarely did I ever remember anybody running as a Republican in that area. So I'm being honest with you, I never had to deal with it. You know, we told people register, go out and vote. We never said go vote for A, go vote for B.
Right. I'm just saying, when you politicize the locker room and you politicize teams, you got to be careful. And just listen to it. Just watch. Just pay attention. Keep your ears open over the next couple of months, because I can already foresee what might happen. You know, and if
that could be a violation of university policy.
Well,
and the reason I bring that up is if a Nick Saban or a Dabo Swinney tells a player that they think they should vote for a particular candidate, because I don't know whether they're Democrat or Republican, so I'm not gonna throw it out. But they say they should, and it gets out that Nick Saban or Dabo Swinney or Kirby Smart says vote for this candidate, and the university gets pushed in the decision, you have clearly violated university policy by endorsing the candidate. Do they get fired? Do they get reprimanded? You're right. It's going to be interesting.
Hasn't Dabo Swinney already been on the record as being a supporter of Donald Trump? Hasn't that already been out there?
I mean, I don't know. I really haven't researched it enough.
Yeah, no. I'm just.
But It's one thing to be a registered Republican, a registered Democrat, and
Right.
to be a support, but it's something totally different when you do it on campus in the locker room.
Again, I hear what you're saying.
What you do in your
But
private time.
There's something called direct and indirect. And although you may not directly be telling me what to do, all I'm saying is visualize 40 African-American football players in your program wearing a T-shirt from the Democratic nominee walking around campus on whatever date instead of going to practice. That's all I'm saying. Just visualize that. And what does that mean? What does that mean for, and we talked about the politicizing of, you know, what these guys are doing. That's what's going to happen. So anyway, while we're talking about politicizing things, Juneteenth is coming up. And apparently where Juneteenth used to be something that folks like you and me would recognize, seems to be now it's the in thing to want to recognize. As
can I ask you before you get going? I thought about this about Juneteenth. When did you really find out about Juneteenth and what it really meant, Bryan? How old were you?
Sometime in college, maybe even after college.
Okay, I don't feel so bad now. Because I really think I was in college before I really found out what Juneteenth was. I found out we were free, you know, in high school during Black History Month, that we were free in June 1965, and it took 3 years or 2 years for it to get to Texas. I found that out during that week of Black History in high school. But the actual what Juneteenth was, I was in fan.
Here's why I even doubt I learned it or knew of it in college, because it's in the summer. It's June, right? We're naturally out of school, out of college in the summer months, right? So
yeah,
unless you're going to summer school or in some sort of cultural program, it wasn't talked about and recognized on television. So, I mean, you know, unless your family was one of those very educationally alert, astute families that recognize things like that, and maybe Kwanzaa and other African-American themed holidays and moments and events in history, you probably, you know, you probably didn't celebrate Juneteenth. You probably weren't going to Juneteenth cookouts. I'm just saying. And so now, as
y'all go to work,
right now as we become more historically and culturally aware because of access to information now, because of, you know, YouTube and other shows and social media and things of that nature, we're more aware of Juneteenth, what it means, what happened, what didn't happen. Now you've got, right now in this current world, in this era where we have this Black Lives Movement Matter or Black Lives Matter movement happening, Juneteenth is right around the corner. And so Nike and Twitter are choosing to recognize Juneteenth as a company holiday. And then guess who followed up right after that? The NFL, you know? And here was the one little thing that I didn't even know this, AD. I did not know that as of last year, 46 states recognized Juneteenth as a holiday. I live in Florida, and I don't believe at any time I've seen anything that Florida recognizes Juneteenth as a holiday. I don't know how it. I've got calendars that I'm looking at right now. There's nothing on my calendar that says Juneteenth. But I got the Battle of Pueblo coming up next week, and something else, Flag Day. Today's Flag Day, matter of fact. I'm just saying. So very, very, very interesting that's going on. So, all I'm saying, I tweeted this out, AD. I think that any company that is choosing to recognize Juneteenth should be held to a same standard of going before the United States Congress and standing behind us when we stand up and say, what about the reparations for our ancestors? What about that 40 acres we were promised? What about financial reimbursement for the descendants of those people who were promised, the 40 acres that were supposed to come from the emancipation? What about that? That never happened. Will the NFL, Nike, and Twitter, will they stand behind us on that day? I'm curious. What do you think, AD? You think they'll stand behind us?
No, they won't stand behind us. But I want to throw something else out at you, Brian.
Fire away.
We talk about Juneteenth, and states. How many states did you say celebrate Juneteenth as an official holiday?
As of last year, 46 states.
Well, Brian, that's refreshing. There are only 4 states left. But let me tell you about these 12 states: Texas, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Arkansas. You know what they have in common?
Practically all part of the old Confederate, but go ahead.
You going down the right path. They all celebrate Confederate Memorial Day.
They do what?
They all celebrate Confederate Memorial Day, which is, for me as a state employee, as a municipal employee, county employee, that's an extra day off for me. How am I supposed to feel about that? I get the day off, but I get the day off for Confederate Memorial Day.
What day is that?
It varies from state to state. Just as an FYI, because you live in Florida, I live in Georgia, I used to live in Alabama. It's the 4th Monday in April for that state. Texas. Now, here's the insult. Guess what Texas celebrates?
Oh, Texas probably celebrates any and everything that's crazy. I don't know.
Guess what day Texas celebrates Confederate Memorial Day?
Oh, not on Juneteenth.
No, worse. Just worse than that. 3rd Monday in January.
Oh, not on King's holiday. No.
Yes, sir. 3rd Monday in January. And wow. I can go, well, since I started, let me go down the list. Mississippi, last Monday in April. North Carolina, South Carolina, May 10th. Virginia, May 30th. Kentucky, Louisiana, and Tennessee is June 3rd. And in Arkansas, it's the 2nd Saturday in October. I got one verse. I lived in Alabama for a long time. First Monday in June is Jefferson Davis Day. So you get another state holiday for Jefferson Davis' birthday.
Ooh, hey, well.
So you get last Monday in May off, and then you get the first Monday in June off.
Wow. All right.
If you're an employee. What were we even going with this discussion? I don't know.
let me bring us back. Let me wrestle us back. Yeah, let me wrestle us back.
Please reel us back.
Yeah. The ESPYs are happening, and Thomas Snacks Lee, the moment, of course, that we talked about that happened in March on senior night for Jackson State men's basketball. that three-pointer that he hit from about 35 feet out, of course, getting an opportunity to dress for the first time as being a student manager. His moment is one of 16 moments that ESPN chose as its for its 2020 Can't Stop Watching moment as part of the ESPYs. And so what they did is they took 16 different moments that happened, a lot of viral, sensational moments over the past year, and they put them in a bracket style with 16 teams, like, 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, so on and so forth, So you had 1 to 16, 16 entries, and Snack's moment was considered an 8 seed. So he was an 8 seed going up against the 9 seed. I forgot. I think the 9 seed might have been a Make-A-Wish kind of moment, a kid who might have been either. I didn't even watch the video, to be honest. It was, but anyway, he his moment was an 8 seed. Yeah. So, you know who the 1 seed is, right? The 1 seed is Simone Biles. She did a triple twisting double somersault in the 2019 U.S. Gymnastics Championships. That was the 1 seed, right? So all this voting happened on Friday, and it went for a couple of days. You vote online, you can vote on Twitter. All of those votes matter. So Snacks and Jackson State made it through the first round. Unfortunately, now they're paired up against Simone Biles, who was the 1 seed. So it's a 1 versus 8 matchup in the Elite 8. Winner advances to the Final Four. So if you're listening to this on, say, a Monday, if this was released on Monday, you can go to the ESPYs website. You can go actually anywhere. If you follow Thomas Snacks Lee on Twitter, Jackson State men's basketball, the SWAC, everybody's retweeting it. You can vote on the website. You can vote on Twitter, and you can make the selection of Snacks versus Simone Biles. Winner, then they vote in the next round of matchups, which essentially will be the Final Four. That will happen on Tuesday. So I ask you, AD, now I feel kind of stupid here because remember when we had our top moments, Snacks was my number 2 moment. He wasn't my number 1 moment. He was my number 2 moment of the past year. I'm going to feel real bad if Snacks wins this contest, and because I would have missed out on being the first person to tell you it was the moment of the year. But anyway, who are you voting for, Simone Biles or Thomas Snacks Lee?
I'm going to pretend you did not ask me that question.
I know you're
really going to pretend you didn't. Yeah, right. And just as a FYI, at the time we're recording this, I don't know what the vote on the website is, but on Twitter, it's 51-49 with Snacks trailing by those 2 points.
Oh, he's actually trailing
by 2 points. Yes.
See,
3,400 votes. 3,400 votes. I just did. I did mine.
When I voted earlier this afternoon, or earlier a few hours before we recorded, Snacks was leading, I believe, 55% to 45.
Right. I wonder what it is on the website, because you say it all counts.
Yeah. Now that doesn't tell you. Unlike how you can see what the voting is on Twitter, you can't really see that on the website. So it doesn't work that way on the website. But, man, Simone Biles has a following, man. And I hate the fact that it came down to that, because one of those two is going to win. Whoever wins this matchup, I'm calling it now, they're winning this field. I mean, because if you look at all the other moments that are in there, I mean, really, there's a girl who kicks a soccer ball. That's actually pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. She does like a little thing off her feet with a soccer ball, and then she kicks it over her head and it goes into the net. That was pretty cool. But other than that, though, it comes down to either Snacks or Simone Biles, in my opinion.
The Creole seasoning is a sodium-free and sugar-free blend that's versatile enough to put on anything. One of the first blends I developed more than 8 years ago, the Creole seasoning has an unmistakable aroma, a bold flavor, and a little heat for character. Every time I open one of these bottles, I hear trumpets and big band music.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do anything. Trust me.
We made this track to tell everybody they can follow their dreams.
All right, moving on because we got to keep moving here, AD. We're coming up here on the end of the show. Former Washington quarterback Doug Williams, who is the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl, will be the subject of a new sports movie biopic, which the film will reportedly track Williams' journey to the NFL, where he became the first black quarterback to be selected in the first round of the draft by
Tampa Bay.
Thank you.
Bucks.
Right. When Williams debuted for the Tampa Bay Bucks, he also became the only starting black quarterback in the NFL. Then through a nasty little contract thing, he ended up spending a couple of years going to the NFL. For some reason, the Bucks didn't want to re-sign him after he sort of helped the Bucks come out of their miserable years in the mid-'70s, took them to the playoffs, and then they didn't want to pay him. So Doug Williams ended up going to the USFL for a couple of seasons. Later returned to the NFL, signing as a backup with the Washington Redskins, and then later became the starting quarterback on the 1988 team that won the Super Bowl, in which he became the starting quarterback and, of course, became the only, or at that time, he was the first. I can't say the only because, of course, we have Patrick Mahomes now, who is the second black quarterback to play in or to win a Super Bowl. But Doug Williams was the first.
Patrick Mahomes is 3. Patrick Mahomes is 3. You forgot Russell.
I'm sorry. Thank you. He's the third one. Yeah, Russell was the second. Thank you. So Doug was the first. The movie's going to be produced by Will Packer Productions. And so, of course, Will Packer, who a Florida A&M graduate who has has a nice catalog of movies that he has produced. And it'll be interesting. Who do you think should play Doug Williams? Any thoughts? Any names? That's a loaded question.
That's have they already chosen someone?
No, there hasn't been any casting.
Okay. I thought this was gonna be a trick question. Well, if you go with somebody who's hot, when I say hot, not as far as the movie making, Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Played the athlete before. He played Creed, so we know he has athletic build. I don't know if he has the skill set, but he has athletic build.
Yeah, but Doug's a big guy, man. Doug is like at that time was 6'4". It'll be interesting to see, can you find somebody who's that size? I think a guy originally I suggested I'm gonna get the name wrong. The guy from Get Out, Daniel Kaluuya, I think is his name. I may have the last name wrong, but he was the star of the movie Get Out. You remember the movie Get Out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was the main lead actor in that movie. But I actually just hit me Anthony Mackie, who obviously we've become familiar with through his work, most recently in the Marvelverse. I think he's tall enough, and it's hard to tell with movies, to be honest with you. but he seems like he might be tall enough to be 6'3", 6'4", and be able to play
Put a
that.
bunch of short people around him, he's taller.
Huh?
Put a bunch of short people around him, he looks taller.
Yeah, exactly. If he was around a bunch of short people, that'd be real messed up. Yeah. So anyway,
I got one for you.
Okay.
He's a little bit older, but physically he has the build. Bokeem Woodbine.
Yeah, I'd have to see Bokeem with hair though. I need him to put on like Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I need to see what Bokeem looks like with hair. Because usually all we see Bokeem with a bald head. I gotta see Bokeem with hair before I go that route.
But he definitely has the physical build for it though.
He does. That's a good suggestion. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We want to let us know. Send us a tweet and let us know who should play Doug Williams in a new biopic. I'm sure Will's getting a lot of suggestions, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Denzel is too old. Like everyone would kind of want Denzel. I think Jamie Foxx is too short.
I got one for you. Better than who's gonna play Doug? Who's gonna play Eddie Robinson?
Well, but is it going to go that? Is it going to go back that far though?
If it goes back that far.
Now, if it goes back that far, I'm telling you now, Denzel's playing Eddie Robinson. I'm telling you, I'm calling that now.
Jamie Foxx.
Okay, we'll see. I'm going with Denzel though. I'm going with Denzel.
Yeah,
we'll see. Oh,
I don't think you go wrong with either one.
I got another name. I just thought of another name. I can't think of the actor's name. The young brother who played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton, and he was also the lead for 24 after Kiefer Sutherland.
I know who you're talking about.
You can visualize who I'm talking about. I can't think of his name right at the moment.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
All right, moving on. We saw a story early this week that the SWAC announced a partnership with the United States Air Force to start some eSports gaming opportunities. In a story that was reported by the guys over at HBCU Game Day, they stated that the SWAC is planning to have an inaugural 2020 Madden Championship with students from all 10 member institutions. That's the current 10 member institutions of the SWAC. Other potential tournaments and events will feature titles such as FIFA Soccer, Fortnite, Overwatch, Rocket League, and Smash Brothers. There's also talk of an NBA 2K basketball tournament that will be part of the 2020-2021 SWAC basketball championships when that is held. And so, it'll be interesting to see, the eSports market is growing. We've even seen stories where universities have been receiving grants. There was a story a year ago, Hampton received $340,000 technology grant from the Department of Homeland Security to create an eSports lab and offer courses in eSports to students. So that's another interesting avenue for the SWAC and just the digital marketplace, man. I think it'd be pretty exciting, to be honest. Are you still up on your Madden skills, or do they ever go away after not playing for 5-6 years?
Once you figure the buttons out, what does what on what game system, it pretty much comes back to you.
Okay. Let's wrap up the show, AD, with a final tribute and a final look back on the life of Ken Riley. Ken Riley died on Sunday, June 6th at the age of 72. This past weekend was his memorial, which I'm sure was well attended by many people, not only from the Florida A&M community, I believe Ken grew up in that area near Lakeland, I believe Bartow, in that area, but also from the Cincinnati community, the Cincinnati Bengal. He played 15 seasons for the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a part of their 50th anniversary team, and he is the only Florida A&M athlete to not only be a player, he was a quarterback under the former or the legend Jake Gaither. He was drafted by the Bengals in 1969. It says that Ken Riley was a candidate for a Rhodes Scholarship as well. He was drafted by the Bengals in 69. They switched him to cornerback. I guess because they had already drafted another quarterback that year. Riley didn't make any fuss about it, chose to play the position as a cornerback, and he did so for 15 seasons. Had 65 career interceptions, which is number 5 all-time among defensive backs. Is widely considered
number
to
4
be. I'm sorry.
He was number 4 when he retired.
Yeah, technically he's actually tied for 4th. I mean, there is I believe Charles Woodson tied him with 65. So technically he and Woodson are tied for 4th with 65. So unless there's some, according to, and that's the latest information I saw from Pro Football Reference, that they're both tied for 65. Many people consider Riley to be one of the more players deserving of election into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, although he was not selected in any of his years of candidacy. He did play in Super Bowl 16 when the Bengals played Joe Montana and the 49ers in 1981. He went on to become the head coach at Florida A&M for 8 seasons. Then he took over the role as athletic director for Florida A&M during the Billy Joe coaching years. And in every year in which Riley was the athletic director, Florida A&M athletics finished in the black. I want to read a quote here from the Cincinnati Enquirer. This was Ken Riley on being elected to only 1 Pro Bowl. During his playing career, he was actually only elected to 1 Pro Bowl, and I believe he was All-Pro 1 season as well. I wanted to have the year here. But anyway, I think I have that correct. It says, quote, "I never really spoke about it or made any big fuss about not being in a Pro Bowl. First of all, I didn't want to get hurt. I've seen some guys get hurt in the Pro Bowl, so it wasn't any big thing for me. If I had known that was going to be such a big deal, I don't know if that would have helped that and not winning the Super Bowl." It's interesting to note, AD, that one of Riley's teammates during that era was another HBCU product, a defensive back from Lincoln, Missouri, Lamar Parrish, who he actually was drafted the next year as a defensive back for Cincinnati. And he was actually at one website called him Deion Sanders before Deion Sanders. He actually played defensive back, but he also was a special teams player. And he played alongside Riley from 1970 to 1977. And he was an 8-time Pro Bowler and 5-time All-Pro. And many people will probably consider the fact that Parrish, who played DB and special teams, received a lot of attention but it was Ken Riley who was rated as the better cornerback, although it was Parrish who actually had the better statistics or maybe made more of a splash because of his skills in special teams. Widely considered to be, I've read some great tributes by Billy Joe and some other people about Ken Riley. And without a doubt, Ken Riley should be in the Hall of Fame. He's in every other Hall of Fame. Florida A&M University's Athletics Hall of Fame, the Black College Football Hall of Fame, the Cincinnati Bengals Hall of Fame. There's no question that Ken Riley should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Unfortunately, when it does happen, it will be posthumously. A.D., I'll give you a moment. Your thoughts on Ken Riley, former quarterback, coach, and athletic director.
And the only Rattler to ever do all three.
Yes.
I don't think if you noted that. Ken Riley, more interceptions than Deion Sanders, but obviously did not have the flair that a Deion had. Had 8 interceptions as a 15-year veteran. In his last year in the league, he had 8 interceptions that led the league. Right. Something else that was not noted. Never played defense until he arrived in Cincinnati. Started the 8th game of the year, his first year, due to an injury to whoever was the starter at that point in time, and never looked back. So kudos to Ken Riley. Met him once or twice while he was on campus. Did not really have a chance to really interact with him, but Riley was not a yeller, screamer. One of those type of guys. He was, from what I have been able to ascertain, was a down to earth, low key, get your job done type person. So there are a lot of D-backs in the Hall of Fame who don't have the numbers that Ken Riley does, but there are plenty of people who should be in the Hall of Fame, HBCU grads and non-HBCU grads, who have better numbers but not the flair and the media, all the other stuff that the voters like, which is why some of these players were not in the Hall of Fame. And Ken Riley is one of those. He was a quiet person.
Yeah, well said. As I was watching his memorial service over the weekend, former Bengals quarterback Ken Anderson brought up a point that, of course, during practices, Ken Anderson was the quarterback that obviously had to go against Ken Riley when they had their scrimmages, 11 on 11s or whatever. And he brought up the point that whenever he intercepted, or whenever Riley intercepted one of his passes, he always made a point to let Ken know what he was reading, what he saw that helped him make that play. So imagine, the defensive back coming over to tell the quarterback, hey, this is what you want to watch out for, because if I'm making that interception on the game day, you want to avoid making that mistake. That's the kind of teacher and coach Ken Riley was. And there was, that story really resonated with me as I heard a few of the speeches.
You think that had something to do with the fact that he played quarterback?
Hey, look, yeah, that probably had something too. They always say, and especially in the Jake Gaither system, your quarterbacks had to be intelligent guys. So it just speaks to that era when a guy like Ken Riley, who had some success at quarterback under a great coach like Gaither, was probably perceived to maybe not be smart enough, or whatever you want to use, to be the quarterback to lead a new franchise, Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, they were a very new franchise in those years. So
he was drafted the second year.
Right. So, you can probably understand there was probably a lot of political pressure in those times to have a black man be the quarterback or lead position. And so Ken, from all accounts, never made a fuss, just accepted the opportunity. And then he helped Ken Anderson become a pretty good quarterback, good enough to help lead Cincinnati to that Super Bowl in 1981 against the 49ers. So pretty dynamic stuff. So rest in peace, Ken Riley. Our thoughts and prayers have definitely been with the family and the former players, and just a great Rattler, a fallen Rattler, as they say, and he will certainly be celebrated for years, decades to come, and we'll all have a big party, or I'm sure Rattler Nation will have a big party when he becomes a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Hopefully the veteran committees will make that happen one day. All right, AD, we have had a loaded show, a lot of news and notes and a lot of things. We appreciate you hanging in there and watching with us. Please let us know your thoughts. Anything we talked about in this show, let us know. You can directly reach us. You can find me on Twitter at DRB365. There's Drew. You can find him at BCSN Drew. Make sure to interact with us on Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, at my BCSN1. Anywhere where you're watching this, make sure to like, subscribe if it's on YouTube, and let us know your thoughts. We appreciate you. And AD, any final thoughts? And we're going to close out. Any final thoughts?
No. Just take some time, and if you were not registered to vote in some of the primaries that have come around, get registered to vote between now and November, and then remember to exercise that right. That's what all these protests are about. That's the first step. If you want change, you got to vote. Register to vote.
Well said. Be safe, everyone. Until our next show, make sure to check out our friends. Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab will be airing on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, or 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Make sure you find him, of course, on Facebook at HBCU. Wait a minute, at Inside HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook. Is that correct? Do I have that Facebook? That's correct.
I don't have it in front of me. I have not memorized it yet.
All right, I've sort of memorized it. It's Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Inside HBCU Sports Lab. You can also watch the show on Twitter as well at MyBCSN1. So that's on Tuesday night. And then, of course, make sure Friday, be on the lookout as we the Juneteenth rebirth of the Jericho Broadcast Networks, our radio shows, digital TV channels, and so on and so forth. So that's going to do it for us. For AD Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thanks for watching this edition of the SportsWrap. Until we talk again, be safe and make sure to love each other. God bless.
But stay on hard.